Hello everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to be working on the next 5 filler blocks in this amazing Kimberbell's Quilting Through the Seasons project. We're going to be doing one here, we're going to be doing this one back here, not the embellishment, just the filler block behind, this large one right here, this one right here, and this one right here. Again, not doing the embellishments, just the base block underneath it. All right, you ready to go? Let's head over to our embroidery machine and let's get started. I also want to give a huge shout out. Again, thank you so much to My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop for sponsoring me and sending me the CD, the embellishments, and the fabric kit in order so that I can show you how to make this project. If you still need some of these supplies for this project, please visit My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop using the link down below and help me give them a big thanks for supporting me and enabling me to make this video series for you. Huge thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop. Okay, so I've checked below. I've still got a good amount of bobbin thread in my machine, so we can use that for this block. And I have my 5x7 hoop filled with a piece of poly no-show mesh, so I've put that in my machine. So now let's go to the screen cam and let's load the design. Okay, so now the first block that we're going to do today, we're going to do block number 7. So if you're looking on the instructions on page 52, we're going to do block number 7. So let's load the quilting design for that. That's going into my flash drive. I'm going to go to my Quilting Through the Seasons folder, my quilting design folder, and number 7 is a star quilting 4x4 design. So I want to go to stars, and I'm looking for a 4x4, which is right here. So let's click that. That looks cool. Let's click set. We don't have to do anything to it, so we're going to click embroidery. I also want to give another thank you to another sponsor in this video, Kimberbell, for providing me with the quilting designs to be able to make this project absolutely amazing using their block by block quilting designs. Thank you so much, Kimberbell. And if you're interested in getting these quilting designs, please use the link in the description below and it'll take you right to it, and you can choose the bundle of the quilting designs, or you can also just get individual designs if you like it all florals or all sayings, which I believe they call time. You can choose which designs you want to put in your project. So please check out the link down below for kimberbell.com. All right, so now let's go to the hoop cam. There we go. So the fabric for this block is going to be this cool black and white stripe. So I'm going to put black thread up in the top of my machine so the quilting will blend in with this block. I think that will be good so that it blends and doesn't stick out or do anything wild. So go ahead and pick the color thread of your choice that matches your fabric and put that in the top of your machine. If you're using a larger spool like I am, make sure you have it to the back of your machine and it's far enough away from that. I call it the flywheel. It's the knob or the wheel on the side that moves when the machine stitches. You don't want the thread being anywhere near that because it will get caught up in it and then will wrap around in your machine, and then that means a trip to the machine doctor. So always make sure you keep your thread to the back. All right, so let's put the foot down. Let's stitch out the placement line for this block. Here we go. Okay, and I want to rethread this needle because it came out of little holder there. So when in doubt, you can always just rethread it. There we go. Now it looks much better. So now I'm going to put down the batting. This is another scrap piece I have, and it just fits from left to right. I mean, just. So I'll have to be careful. But even if it misses it just a little bit, you're still going to have the batting in your block, so you're fine. But I'm going to go ahead and put the foot down, leave black thread up on top, and let's tack this batting down. Just squeaked by and made it fit. Okay, so we're going to take the hoop off the machine, and we're going to take this to a table, and we're going to trim around and get rid of this excess batting. Okay, so now let's put the foot down, black thread still on the top of the machine, and let's stitch the placement line for the fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to place the fabric down and make sure that I cover that placement line. And now this is directional fabric, so I'm going to go ahead and put mine with the stripes going up and down. But the cool thing is with this quilting design that we're going to put on here, it really won't matter. It won't matter until you actually go to sew it into the project which direction it is, because the quilting will have 4 designs and it'll look good either direction. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it up and down with the stripes for now. Feel with the batting. You can feel that I'm right along the edge, so I want to pull it over a little bit there. Feel that batting. Okay, we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and tack down the fabric. Black thread is still up on top. Nice. Now all we have to do is stitch out the quilting. I want mine to be in black, so I'm going to leave black thread up on top. This is a 3-minute in real life stitch out, so enjoy. Here we go. Okay, let's take this hoop off the machine. That's a cool quilting design. I like that. Okay, so now I want you to take this block out of your hoop, set it aside for now, and we're going to get ready to work on the next block. Okay, we're at the machine, and I'm going to check my bobbin. Yep, I still got enough down there. So we're good. I am putting my super large hoop on the machine for this one. This is my 9.5 by 14 hoop, and I've put a piece of poly no-show mesh stabilizer in it. This is my monster hoop, but because the next filler block that we're going to work on, which on page 52 is number 8. Number 8 is an 8 by 8 inch design, so you would think it would fit in my 8 by 8 inch hoop, but it won't, because the placement stitches and everything, it's going to be 8.5 inches. So it won't quite fit in my 8 by 8 hoop. It also won't fit in my 8 by 12 hoop. So I had to go use my monster hoop, my 9.5 by 14. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the screen cam and let's load the design on the machine. So I'm going to click embroidery. Oh, I have a dream machine. Again, if you have something similar, you can follow along. I'm going to go to my flash drive. Going to go to Quilting Through the Seasons and Quilting Design. So number 8 is the filler block that we're working on. So I'm looking for plant that's an 8 by 8. So I want to go to my plant subdirectory and come right down here, and here is my 8 by 8. That'll be fun to watch stitch out. And see, it shows it as 8.5 by 8.5, which is why it won't quite fit in my 8-inch hoop. So you have to put a hoop in that you have on for your machine that will fit an 8.5 inch by 8.5 inch design. All right. So I'm going to click set. Everything looks good. I don't have to do anything to it. And I'm going to click embroidery. Machine loves it. Okay, let's go back to the hoop cam. And I'm going to pull out the fabric that I'm going to be doing this block with. And it's going to be this large piece of a really cool ivory and a taupe. If you have the kit, this is the piece that you're looking for. Put the other pieces aside here. All right, so this is the piece I'm looking for. So I want to match the thread at this point to be a match to the fabric. So I'm going to put this taupe thread up at the top, and then we'll be stitching out the placement line for the batting. We'll tack down the batting, and then we'll also tack down the fabric with this. All right, so go ahead and put a taupe thread or a thread that matches your fabric. If you are using your own fabrics, put that color thread up in the top of your machine, and we will get started on this filler block. This is fun, huh? We are getting there. We're getting good. You're getting more and more confident as you do each block, which I love. Okay, so let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line for the batting. Okay, so now I'm going to lay the batting down and make sure that it covers all the placement lines. It's just going to fit. And I mean just. Okay, let's move that there. All right, it should just fit. So let's tack down the fabric. Foot down, leave the taupe thread on the top of your machine, and let's go. Okay, so now you know what to do. We're going to take the hoop off the machine. We're going to take this to a table and we're going to trim away the excess batting. I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so now we are back at the machine. I put the hoop back on and we have the batting all trimmed up. So now I'm going to use the same thread I have up on top, the taupe, and I'm going to put the foot down and we're going to stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to lay the fabric down. And it's really not a directional fabric, and it's square, so you can lay it any direction you like. And I'm going to feel for the batting. Make sure I can feel it up on top. And I can feel it side to side, so this has to come over a little bit more. There's the batting. And there's the batting there. So we are good to go. It just fits. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and tack this fabric down using the same color thread that I have up on top. All right, you got this. Let's put the foot down and let's tack down the fabric. Oops. Disaster strikes. Okay, so we're going to cut the thread. We're going to back it up here. And then I've got to get my scissors out because it caught a little bit of the fabric back here. So let me get my hand in here. Let me cut that. All right. That's okay. That happens once in a while. All right, so that's all right. So now what I want to do is I will need to back up to the top because it wasn't quite catching. But what I think I'm going to do first is I'm going to stitch from this point all around. I want to tack down the rest of the fabric and then I'm going to come down and tack this part down. So let's just continue on and I'll show you how to come back and fix the top part. All right, here we go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up some of this thread over here, which is actually unraveling from the fabric, and get that out of the way. Okay, and this is just because the fabric was so close that it didn't catch up here, and then it caught the edge of the fabric on this side. So it's okay, this happens. I'm going to go back to the screen cam. Okay, and now I just need to back up a stitch. So I want to go plus and minus, and I want to go back up a stitch. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to run this again, and I'm actually going to stitch the whole thing, but I might stop it right when I get to this corner to make sure that it doesn't catch that fabric again. Okay, so let's go back to the hoop cam, and let's start it stitching, and then I'm going to stop it right on this end. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. Here we go. Stop. Okay, so this fabric is just a teeny bit on the edge where the batting is, and this is where it didn't catch. Okay, so I'm going to now take it just one step at a time. And I'm going to see, even if it goes off the edge a little bit, I'm going to stop it until it gets back on the edge. This will be okay because when we square up the block, we square up the block anyway to be on this stitch line. And then that 1/4 inch after that goes into the seam allowance. So the fact that we have this little boo-boo is okay. Just keep your fingers away from the moving needle, okay? So let's see. Yeah, see, it's not going to catch there. And I think it'll just catch the next one. Okay, yeah, it's sewing on it now. There we go. We're good to go. All the way around. Okay, that's how you fix it. And I'll just let it continue stitching all the way around to the top, because again, this is all going to get cut off. There we go. The main thing that we're looking at when we're tacking this fabric down is just a stitch that's going to keep this fabric in place while the quilting happens. Once the quilting happens, this fabric isn't going to go anywhere. And like I said, we're going to be trimming off this outer stitch line anyway at the end when we square everything up. So it's going to be just fine. Okay, so that's how you can fix a boo-boo like that. Okay, so now let's do the fun part, the quilting. This is an 8-minute in real life stitch out. And because this block is number 8, it's going to be the background where we're going to have that fun interchangeable quilt with all the colors and the square border. So I don't want a quilting that's going to compete with that. So I'm going to quilt this in the same taupe thread that I already have up above, because I want it to blend in on this block and let that pieced quilt that we're going to add later do the shining, okay? I want that to be the focal point. So let's put the foot down, sit back and relax and enjoy the quilting. Here we go. love that. Didn't that turn out great? Okay, so now you're going to take the hoop off the machine. There we go. And now we have 2 of the filler blocks done. We have the small one here that we just did before, and now this one that we just finished. So I want you to put this along with this block aside, because we're going to trim it all up at the end. And now we're going to get ready to load another hoop and do the 3rd filler block in today's video. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's clear the previous design out of the machine. Click OK on finish and the carriage will move. There we go. Quickest way is to click on home. OK to delete. Yes. Now we're going to go to embroidery, back to my flash drive where I keep all my files, Quilting Through the Seasons, Quilting Designs. Now we're going to work on filler block number 10. So we're looking for the plant design. That's a 4x6 design. Click on plant. Here's 4x6. Bring it on in. That'll be fun. It's 6.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So we're going to be using our 5x7 hoop for this one. Click set because we don't have to do anything. And let's go to the hoop cam. There we go. So bobbin thread still looks good. I have my 5x7 hoop filled with another piece of that poly no-show mesh stabilizer. And we're going to put that hoop on the machine. All right. So what fabric are we going to use for this? Okay, block number 10 is, let me get this here, this black one right here. Okay. So guess what color thread I am going to put in the top of my machine? If you guessed black, you guessed right. Where's my black thread? Here it is. Found it. So I'm going to put black thread in the top of my machine. Then we're going to stitch the placement line for the batting. Okay, so I've got my black thread up on top, thread the machine. Let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line for the batting. Oop. It says finish editing the pattern before sewing the pattern. Okay, let me show you what I did. I didn't go all the way, so click OK. I forgot to hit embroidery. So I was still in like the pre-edit stage. I need to click embroidery for the machine to know that we're ready to go. So don't forget that step like I did. Now we can stitch the placement line. Okay, I have this scrap piece of batting. Let's see if it's going to work. It's going to be a little bit tight. Let's switch it this direction. Yeah, it'll work. It'll just work. All right, so I got it just on the top and just on the bottom. Okay, so put your batting down. Got that placed so it covers all the placement lines. And let's put the foot down, leave black thread up on top, and let's tack down this batting. Talk about a close call. Look at that. Eek! It just made it here on this bottom edge. That's great. Okay, so now you know what we're going to do. We're going to take the hoop off the machine and we're going to cut away all of this excess batting from the outside edges. Okay, I trimmed that up. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want the bulk of that batting out of your seam allowance. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the foot down. Still have black thread up on top. Let's stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Okay, so now we're going to put the fabric down and make sure you've covered all of those placement lines. This is again going to be very tight. These last two pieces could have been a little bit bigger in the cut stage, but we can make it work. Okay, so try to make sure that you've got those lines covered top and bottom, and then feel your batting Yeah, I think we'll be all right. Okay, so I'm going to leave black thread still on the top of the machine. Double check, make sure it hasn't moved. Okay, so let's tack down this fabric. Here we go. So now we're at the fun part, the quilting. So this block, which is filler block number 10, is going to be at the bottom of the quilt. And it doesn't look like it has any accessories on it. So I'm thinking for the quilting, we could go either black and just have it blend in, or let's test out a gray. That's a different gray. It's almost like a brown gray. Let's try a dark gray. Just to let it have a subtle pop, not like in your face pop that'll conflict with the fabric, but something other than a black. Okay. This one reads like a black. This one I think will stand out just a little bit. So I'm going to go with this dark gray for my quilting, just so it'll stand out just a little bit. So your choice now is to choose the color thread that you would like your quilting to be on this block, and put that color thread up on the top of your machine, and then we're going to stitch out the quilting. It is about a 3 minutes in real life stitch out. So let's put this thread up here, and we will enjoy the quilting being stitched out. I love watching this. It's very peaceful, very relaxing, no stress, just watching the machine quilt. And we have a loop, so you know what we have to do? We have to get that loop out, because it can wrap around your foot, break a needle, and, or worse, cause damage to your machine. We don't want that. All right, so here we go. 3 minute stitch out in real life. Here comes the quilting. Oh, I like how that turned out. Let's see if you can see it on camera here. Isn't that cool? Just a little bit of a different offset than the black. I really like that. Okay, you did it. So go ahead and take the hoop off the machine, take the block out of the hoop, and we're going to get ready to do the next filler block. All right, we're back at the machine, and I have my super big hoop, my 9.5 by 14, on the machine, and I placed another piece of that poly no-show mesh stabilizer in it. And you're like, why are we doing such a big hoop? Because on this stitch out, we are going to combine the last two blocks in our final stitch out. We're going to be working on filler block number 6 and filler block number 9. 6 and 9. Okay, so let's go to the screen cam and let's load the designs. So we are finished embroidering the last one. Click OK. Carriage will move. That's correct. I'm going to go to Home to clear the memory. OK to delete the selected pattern. Yes. Going to go to Embroidery, my flash drive, my Quilting Through the Seasons, and my Quilting Designs. Okay, the first one I want to load is the larger of the two, which is number 6. So I'm looking for floral and a 4 by 12 design. So I'm going to click on floral, and I'm looking for 4. Oh, it's waiting. There we go. 4 by 12, which is right here. Here we go, 4 by 12. It is 12.5 inches by 4.5 inches, which is why we have to have the bigger hoop. So I click set. And now I want to move it. I want to move it all the way over to the left. Okay, and we'll see if the machine likes that in a little bit. Now I'm going to click add. I'm going to go back to my flash drive, Quilting Through the Seasons, Quilting Designs, and then we're going to do block 9, and 9 is plant 4 by 8. Plant, and then I'm looking for here the 4 by 8 design. It's going to bring that in, and now I want to move that all the way over to the right side. Okay, I'm going to send it right over there. Now I'm going to click embroidery and see if the machine likes it. It likes it! Perfect. Okay. When you use a larger hoop, you can't really use this square guideline that the screen puts in because the hoop is larger than that. So it's always a matter of putting it in there and then clicking embroidery, like I'm going to hit return. You click embroidery, and then that is when the machine will tell you if it doesn't like it. If it doesn't like it, it'll come up with a message saying, please change to a larger hoop, which I don't have on the machine. But then that tells me I need to move it or shrink it or do whatever I do. So this looks good. The machine is happy, and so are we. Okay, so now let's go back to the hoop cam. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the two fabrics that I have. Okay, the fabric on the left, the larger block, is going to be this dark gray. The fabric on the right is going to be a taupe. So I want to put a gray thread in the top of the machine first. See if this other gray looks better. Nope, that one. So that we can do the placement line for the block on the left. We'll do all of the left first. Then we'll come back and change the threads out and do the block on the right. All right. So I'm going to put both fabrics aside for a few minutes. And I'm going to load this gray thread in the top of my machine. Choose your color thread that you want to do the first block in, the filler block that's going to be on the left. Put your thread in the top of the machine, and we're going to stitch this out. A little bit of a loop, just move that out. All right. Let's stitch the placement line for the filler block on the left. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to lay my piece of batting down. Let's make sure that it covers all sides, and it does. Close? No, we're good. Move it over just a smidgy. All right, so let's put the foot down. Leave your dark gray thread up on top, or whatever thread you chose, and let's tack down this batting. Okay, you know what to do next. We're going to take the hoop off the machine, take it to a table, and let's trim away all of this excess batting. Okay, so the batting is all trimmed up. Let's get that poly no-show mesh out of the way in the corner. Let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line for the fabric. I still have my dark gray thread up on top of my machine. Okay, now we're going to put the fabric down. Make sure that you've covered that placement line. Again, this is a little tight, so you got to make sure that you do it really good. Feel for the batting. This side's a little close, so let's pull that over. Feel for the batting up at top and at the bottom. And we should be good to go. All right, so let's put the foot down. Same color thread still at top. And let's tack down this fabric. You've got this. Very nice. Okay, now this block is going to have the clothespins and the little pennant hanging from it. So I don't want the quilting to be too loud. And I really like the look of this gray thread I have on top. I think that'll look nice on the block. So I'm going to do my quilting in the same color thread. All right. Pick the thread color of your choice to do your quilting. Put that thread in the top of the machine. And let's stitch this out. This is a 5-minute in real life stitch out. All right. Sit back and enjoy. Very nice. Love that. Okay, so now I'm going to switch the thread on the top of the machine because now we're going to work on the block on the right, all right, which is going to be the ivory one here. So I'm going to put, it's kind of like a taupe. So I'm going to put this taupe or dark ivory thread up on the top of my machine. You pick the thread color of your choice. And we're going to work on this next block. And you know what? This will be the last filler block for today. Realize we've done 4 already. This is number 5. Isn't that great? You got this. Oop, loop. Get the loop out. All right, let's stitch out the placement line. Here we go. Okay, this stitch line came pretty close to this fabric, not a big deal. But what's going to happen is when we go to do a placement line for the fabric, it's actually going to stitch on top of this. It's really not an issue because we're going to end up trimming on this stitch line. But what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to take the hoop off the machine and I'm going to cut away the fabric just here on this side to that stitch line. That will get this fabric out of the way and give me a clear field for when we work on this block. So just trim off this side up to that stitch line right here. Just get rid of this excess fabric. So now we have a little bit more room there for it to stitch out the rest of this block. Okay, so now I'm going to put down the batting. Make sure that it covers all sides, and let's put the foot down. Still have the taupe thread up on top, and let's tack down the batting. Okay, now we're going to take the hoop off the machine and we're going to take this over to the table and we're going to trim away the excess batting around the outside. Okay, we've got the batting all trimmed up. Now I'm going to leave the same color thread up on top and I'm going to stitch out the placement line for the fabric, and it's going to get close to this, but we should be all right. Here we go. Woohoo! Perfect. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to put the fabric down for this block and make sure that you cover both sides and feel for the batting. Feel for the batting on both sides. Okay, we're good. Same color thread up on top, and let's put the foot down and tack down this fabric. We're almost done. Perfect. Okay, so we still have a clear shot to cut right through those 2 blocks. So we are good. Okay, so now we're going to do the quilting, favorite part. So this block, let's see, this is number 9, and number 9 is going to have buttons, a little button quilted block on it as well. So I don't want the quilting to pop. I want it to blend in. So that taupe thread that I have already in my machine, I'm going to leave that there and I'm going to quilt the quilting stitches in that same color. All right. So choose the quilting thread color of your choice and put it in your machine. Let's stitch this out. It's a 4-minute in real life stitch out. Foot down, and here we go. Very nice. Okay, you just finished stitching out the last 2 blocks in today's video. Look at that. All right. So now let's take the hoop off the machine and take the blocks out of the hoop, and let's take all 5 filler blocks that we did today over to the table, and I'm going to show you how to finish them up. All right, now that we're at the table, we're going to finish up these blocks, and the order I want you to put your blocks in is we're going to do this one first, which is going to be filler block number 7, and it's going to measure 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So if you want to write that on the bottom of your stabilizer there, 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. This next one is filler block number 10, and it's going to measure 4.5 inches by 6.5. 4.5 by 6.5. Make that one next. The third one we're going to deal with is going to be this one, which is block number 8, and it's going to be 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches. 8.5 inches square. Okay, and then the last one we'll cut is the one that has 2 filler blocks on it. This one's filler block number 6. It's going to be 4.5 inches by 12.5. 4.5 by 12.5. And this one's filler block number 9, and it's going to be 4.5 inches by 8.5 inches. 4.5 by 8.5. Okay, so let's put those blocks in that order, and let's get to work on this first one here. Okay, so again, this one's going to be 4.5 by 4.5 square. I'm going to look for the outer stitch line. It's going to be a little hard to see with black thread, but I'm going to look for that outer stitch line, and then I'm going to measure 4.5 from this line to this line. Yes. Turn it around, and from this stitch line to that stitch line is 4.5. So we are good. So I'm going to look for that black stitch line. You can actually feel for it too. If it's a little hard to see, you can actually feel for the stitch line. Okay, and I'm looking up here, and I want to make sure that I'm squaring that up. Okay, and I'm going to trim that block up. Okay, so now we want to make sure we square it, so I'm going to line that block up on my mat and go to 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. There's the black stitch line, and that's where I'm going to be. Make sure I'm lined up. Go ahead with your rotary cutter and trim that up. Okay, so now we're 4.5 that way. We're going to do the same thing this direction. Look for that stitch line, or feel for that stitch line. Okay, there it is. I'm going to go to right there. And I'm going to trim that up. Come over here, and I'm going to square this block up. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Make sure everybody's lined up nicely, and then trim that block up. Dun, da, da, da. There's your first filler block. Okay, put that one aside, and let's grab filler block number 10, which is going to be 4.5 by 6.5. We're going to do the same thing. Going to measure from that stitch line to that stitch line is 6.5. And from that stitch line to that stitch line is 4.5. So we're good. So we'll come back here. Same technique on all these blocks, just using a regular ruler. Okay, there I am. I've got that cut off. Now I'm going to line this up on my mat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and a half. And I'm right just a hair over the stitch line, which is fine. Make sure that I'm lined up. And then cut. Okay, same technique. You've got this. Okay, like I said, if the black line gets a little hard to see, you feel for it. Okay, black on black is very hard to see. And then you just can feel for that stitch line. Okay, I've lined up the block. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. Lined up on this side. Looks great. You got this. You just did the next filler block. Isn't that cool? Okay, let's put that one aside. And let's pull out block number 8, which is the large one. That's going to be 8.5 by 8.5. This one's going to be a lot easier to see. So we're going to measure this stitch line, which is right at the edge of the fabric, to here is 8.5. This stitch line to that stitch line is 8.5. So what I want to do with this little edge here is I want to use this as the first edge I cut, because I want this to be kind of clean. And so I'm looking for that stitch line, but because the stitch line goes off the fabric, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit and actually use my ruler and look for this stitch line to square up the block so I can actually clean up that edge. So this block showing me that I'm straight on this stitch line, and then I can clean that up on this side. Okay, and I know I'm still connected, but I want to save these pieces because these pieces are big, and these two pieces can be stitched together and used for another block. That's why I didn't cut all the way. So now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do the same thing on the stitch line for here, and then I can cut all of my stabilizer off. Oops. Except for this little thing right here. There we go. And then I have a big piece that I can reuse. Okay. So now I can come over here and I'm going to work on this part. Line that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And I'm just a hair over the stitch line. That's great. Make sure everything's lined up. Take that all off. Reuse that piece. That'll even work for like 4x4 hoop. So you don't want to waste supplies, you know. Not when we can avoid it. Right? Right. Okay, so the only edge we have to do now is this one. So line that up, same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And this one I'm going to be a little bit further over the stitch line. That's okay, because what will happen is that stitch line will end up in your seam allowance and still will not show. Okay, so we're good. 8.5. Okay, so yeah, you can see this here, but that is within that 1/4 inch. That will end up in your seam allowance. Okay, and heaven forbid if a little bit of the stitch line did show through, you can always just take your seam ripper and just take that out so it doesn't show. Okay, because this is a smaller amount, this is more of a 1/4 inch, so I might have to take a couple of that out, but that's good. Look at that. Okay, let's put that one aside. You got this. There's only one left. All right, so this one is a little bit more challenging, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this top edge. I'm going to go, the seam lines here, I'm going to go all the way to the fabric just to trim off the excess stabilizer that I have here and get that out of the way. All right, and then the first thing I'm going to look at is this one here is going to be 4.5 inches by 12.5 inches. So I'm going to measure. There's 12. That's 12.5. And from this stitch line to that stitch line is 4.5, right on the dot. Okay, so that's going to be good. This one's going to be 4.5 by 8.5. So I'll measure that one. That one's 4.5. And that one's also 8.5. So we're good. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut off this excess stabilizer. I have my measurements. Keep that handy. Okay. So now a little bit easier to handle. So now I'm going to go right in the middle. The stitch line for the ivory is here and the stitch line for the gray is there. So I want to go in the middle. I don't want to cut either one. I just want to separate the blocks. So I'm right in the middle, separating those two. Yay! Okay. So this one, we're going to go 12.5. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the stitch line. Line it up. Looks good. Block looks good. Okay, let's trim that up. Then I come over here and I'm looking for 12.5. 6, 18.5 is on my mat because I put it at the 6, so that would give me 12.5. When in doubt, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.5. Triple check. Okay, we're good. Go ahead and cut that off. Now I'm looking at 4.5 inches wide. And I can actually take that if I want, because that will be in the seam allowance. And I can come over here and go 1, 2, 3, 4.5, which will land me just on the inside of the stitch line. So I can do that. Any stitch line over here, it's not even like 1/8 of an inch. That can be in my seam allowance. And I can square this block up over here. You have a little bit of a cushion with these stitch lines, knowing that everything then has a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you have a little bit of wiggle room. There you go. Isn't that cool? Let's put that one aside and let's finish up the last one. Same thing. I'm going to take that edge. This is going to be 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. There we go. Make sure we're level on the left. 4.5 on the right. Let's move that out of the way. I don't want to accidentally cut that. No, I do not. Okay. And then this is going to be 8.5. Okay, so I want to line up that stitch line. Trim it up. And do the same thing. You got this. 8.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. It's going to be just a hair over the stitch line. Make sure I'm lined up. And away that goes. Nice. You just did the last filler block. Dun, 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 dun. You did it. Don't you feel great? Okay, let's get all these filler blocks out so you can see what you just accomplished. Look at this. Isn't that amazing? You did it. You just finished 5 more blocks in Kimberbell's Quilting Through the Seasons project. Way to go. So I hope you had as much fun making these blocks as I did today. These were great. And I hope you stay tuned here on Jolly Molly TV for more fun and more blocks in Kimberbell's Quilting Through the Seasons ladder quilt project. And until I see you next time, take care. Bye-bye.